Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the Wellness Crusaders show with Jessica and Patty. Oh, that'd be me.
And Jessica is me.
Jessica's her. Before we start doing our show on humor today, which is what we're going to talk about, just going to share our mission statement so everybody knows really why we're here. Our mission is to educate and empower you to make informed choices for your health, the health of our children, our communities, and our earth. We are committed to fostering a world where the balance between human health and environmental stewardship is respected and nurtured. Join us in this holistic and transformative journey as we work together to create a healthier, more harmonious world for all. All. Please join the crusade.
Yes.
Okay, there's my part. That's all I have to do. The rest is all going to come hopefully.
And I'm going to read our disclaimer. Listener understands that the role of the health coach is not to prescribe or assess micro and macronutrient levels, provide healthcare, medical, or nutritional therapy services, or to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease, condition, or other physical, mental ailment of the human body. Rather, the coach is a mentor and guide who's been trained in holistic health coaching to help clients have a positive, sustainable lifestyle changes. The listeners understand that we are not acting in the capacity of a doctor, a licensed dietitian, nutritionist, psychologist, or other licensed or registered professional, and that any advice given by the coach is not meant to take the place of the advice of these professionals. If the listener is under the care of a healthcare professional or currently using prescription medications, the client should always discuss this with their medical doctor, and they should not make any medical changes or dietary changes or dietary supplement use without first consulting their doctor. Listener understands that the information mentioned in our talk should not be seen as medical or nursing advice and is not meant to take the place of seeing licensed health professionals. Although we do have certifications, we have a lot of certifications and a lot of knowledge between us. So yeah, today's a light show. We're talking about emotions and how to use laughter to navigate through life and those hard times.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah.
I want to, well, thanks for that. But while you are reading the disclaimer, I want to tell you a little secret. I don't have a doctor.
I don't have a doctor either.
No. So for those of you who don't have a doctor, and I'm not saying I wouldn't see a doctor, but I generally, I see other alternative professionals. So like Jessica and Lori.
I know we use each other.
We use each other. And I'm not saying a doctor, again, isn't something that, I mean, I went to a doctor when I broke my foot 3 months ago. There was no question about that. I'll probably need to go to the dentist for my tooth that's bothering me for sure at some point. But part of this is also for us to share with folks that we really want to be looking at our own bodies and taking care of our bodies and finding the right medicine for that. And much of our show is about, natural medicine. So, and a lot of things we can do on our own, with a little bit of education, with a little bit of research. So I wanted to share that. The other thing I want to share is I'm kind of looking at both of us and I'm like, why do you look tan and I look really white? I just don't know why.
Because I've been in the sunshine a lot.
No, but I've been in the sun, a little sun, but I'm just like, is it the camera thing? Do I need to do a tint on mine?
Could be the lighting.
That's okay. That's my first bit with humor.
So maybe you need some more laughter in your life to bring some color into your skin.
To flush my skin a little bit. Well, I wanted to share because I brought up, like, let's talk about laughter. I was watching a very serious, serious topic. And the guy's name is David Wilcock, and some of our listeners may know him. He has a website called Divine Cosmos. He's kind of he's kind of he shares the news. He's also a writer, a historian, but he does these these characters now. So where he pulls up his glasses and he does Angry Daddy, which is his dad, that he comes into this little like, and I was eating my lunch the other day watching him, and he's talking about some serious stuff. And then he pulls on his glasses and starts doing his Angry Daddy, which I hadn't seen before. I hadn't watched him in a while. And I almost spit out my food because it made me laugh so much. And I lightened up about the seriousness of what he was talking about, because as we know, there's a lot of stuff going on our planet. There's a lot of hard stuff to swallow with what's going on with our food system, and on and on and on, right? So it's hard to see humor in a lot of, what's going on out there. But I think it's imperative we do find some humor and find some lightness as we look at a lot of serious things going on out there in the world. So I wanted to share that because I was like, oh my God. And you know what? He had so many views. He said, this is the biggest show. And I said, because he was funny,
Right.
And comedians that actually aren't like gross and crude and make, they're using some of the situations going on in the world in a respectful but funny. I mean, to really be witty is to really be smart, and also to be lighter and not think, you have to be perfect about everything. But, because I've watched some comedians that are incredible, and then others I'm just like, okay, off you go.
Yeah, there's some great ones. Well, and laughter yoga, there's laughter yoga out there too. I took a laughter yoga class, and when I was going through a really difficult time with Charles's addiction, and it was incredible for my sanity and being able to stay focused and engaged in life.
Yes.
And, and what you said, Patty, there's so much out there that's hard to digest or hard to swallow.
Mm-hmm.
And you can shift it. You can shift the energy. You can shift your mood almost instantly with laughter. Mm-hmm. And
you can.
You think about back to when we were children, right? As children, you laugh so much, like so much.
My gosh, did we laugh?
I think it's like 300 times a day or something is what they say, 300 times a day that children laugh. And we as adults laugh what? Maybe 15 to 20 times a day, if even that.
And you know what part of that is? We don't. Can you read it?
Nope, because you unmirrored your camera.
Oh, shoot. Okay, well, I have a cup that says, let that shit go. And it's a person in a yoga pose. So my older brother sent me that. And anyway, of course it was funny that he sent that to me, but I didn't know that about children, but that makes sense. Right. And, one of the things, I remember about my family parties growing up. I do remember quite a bit of drinking, but more than the drinking was the laughter. And we knew, like, if we were at a park, we used to go to these parks and have picnics with the whole family, and I grew up in Long Island, and we would go off on our bikes or go discovering things, and we knew where they were from the laughter. We're like, oh, they're in that direction, because we could hear them all laughing.
That's so fun.
I know it was really fun. Tell us more about laughter yoga, and then I'd like to share my experience with laughter yoga, if I may, after you share more about it.
Yeah. So, laughter yoga came from India with Madam Kataria. He was the founder of it, and you could actually become certified as a laughter yoga teacher.
Oh,
so I think that's still available.
Maybe I should put that on my bucket list.
Yeah, put it on there because it's so fun. So Madam Kataria, he is this cute little bald man, and just goes.
And he's called Madam though too, right? So that's already funny.
Madam, yeah. And he goes around spreading laughter. He has some funny YouTube videos. Maybe we should find them for Leighton to play. But there's one of him up at 4:00 in the morning doing silent laughter yoga, trying not to wake up his household. And he is just there laughing by himself silently. And it's so funny. You just crack up laughing. So laughter yoga, though, when you take a class, there's a lot of play that happens with it. So
Mhm.
you're playing like you're a young child. You're imagining that you have a balloon above your face, up in the air, and that you're blowing it, or bubbles, and you're trying to keep it from landing on the ground, and then somebody can steal your bubble from you. And then you lay on each other's bellies and you just laugh and laugh and laugh.
Okay.
But there's a little mantra that you do with it too. So I'm going to teach you it.
Okay.
So
Do I have to do this?
you could do this to begin with. Okay.
Okay.
And then you're going to go ho, ho, ha, ha, ho, ho, ha, ha, ho, ho, ha, ha, ho, ho,
Oh,
ha,
oh,
ha,
ha, ha, oh,
ha,
oh,
ha,
ha,
ho,
ha,
ho, ha, ha, ho,
ha, ha,
ho,
oh, ha, ha, oh.
and
And then how long do you do that for?
until you just burst into laughing. But laughter is contagious, right? They have videos of people who will just go and sit on a train and then they just start laughing. And before you know it, the entire train is laughing and they have no idea what they're laughing at. They're just laughing because somebody else is laughing. It's so contagious.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm going to share my experience with laughter yoga. Um, uh, okay, so many years ago, some of the pioneers in this field that we're in of mental health nutrition, Julia Ross, Christina Veselak, Hyla Cass. Oh my gosh, there were so many of them there, and this was part of the Alliance for Addiction Solutions that Carolyn Rubin started many years ago, and she said, let's do a retreat for the board, because we were all on the board of directors in Virginia at this wonderful place called the Land Celebration. And it was oh my god, it was this gorgeous place in Virginia somewhere, so that we all met. So we ended up doing a training. It was actually our first training with the amino acid therapy and nutrition, and so I was presenting with Julia Ross, and I had just met Christina, who now, I work with the academy, and myself. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be. So we did a training, and then right after the training, we did a retreat for the staff, and Carolyn Rubin for the board of directors. And so Carolyn Rubin said, I've got a surprise for you during our retreat, because we all wanted to connect together, being on this board and trying to make headway in the addiction mental health field. So she said, I have hired a yoga therapist to do laughter yoga. And we're all like, laughter yoga. So we had no idea what it was. And we were all sitting around in a circle. And the woman that showed up to do laughter yoga, she was with her husband, who sat next to him. And when she opened her mouth, she was missing her front tooth. Okay. So no offense if anybody's missing a front tooth. I actually saw a gentleman last night at a poetry thing that didn't have a front tooth either. So that happens, right? Luckily, mine are in the back. Nobody can see mine.
I've got one right here.
Yeah, you have one there. So mine are in the back, but it wasn't in the front. So she kept talking about, and we were all like trying to figure out how this keeps popping up over your face. So I'm just going to the private chat. But anyway, so somebody in our group, there was probably like 10 of us in a circle, and she's talking, and her husband was stone cold serious, right? And we're like, okay, when do you start laughing? Like, we didn't know. So somebody started laughing, and we weren't laughing at her without her tooth, but she was trying to get us to laugh. And then we all just, like you said, we all just started laughing, and it was this contagious thing that went around the group. And just someone started laughing, and then another person started laughing, and then we just laughed for like 20 minutes. We never got on the floor, though. So that's what I was confused about. I'm like, well, I thought we were doing yoga, because, when I think about laughter yoga, I think we're doing, I don't know, funny poses in yoga, maybe laughing about it. But it was that contagious, like, okay. So that was really, really fun. And I think probably a lot of people who have you just sometimes can't control yourself, and you're either in a class or somewhere where you actually should not be laughing. And I'll share my one other story about laughing, because I actually got kicked out of my first yoga class for laughing. So this was a long time ago. I was with my dear friend Annabeth, and I didn't even know what yoga was. I was more in the dance field. And she goes, "Do you want to come to yoga with me?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's yoga?" Right? So this was in, my gosh, 19 Matthew was born in 84, so 83, in San Diego, and we were both teaching dance then. And so she invited me to this yoga class she went to, and it was wonderful, and I loved it. And of course, I mean, I probably heard of yoga, but I had never taken a yoga class. Took the yoga class, and then we sat around afterwards and we started oming, which I had never done before. And it was that giggle, right? That like, I just like was like, it was a kind of surprise to me. So I started laughing, and then she started laughing, and then we were asked to leave.
Oh no.
It was just one of those, where you're like, okay, I'm not going to laugh. But it was one of those. And I've had that in some of my groups. I've had people laughing. And I guess part of why I want to share about the laughter is what laughter does is, and sometimes you can't control it. Like there are people that laugh when they're nervous. So there's that. And I don't know if you've heard about that.
Oh, I do that.
Are you nervous right now?
No.
Okay. I just thought you might laugh if you were nervous. Right. But you laugh when you're nervous, right?
I laugh. Yeah, I laugh in inappropriate situations and it gets me into trouble. But
Like what I just told you.
Yeah, but it's because I'm nervous. Like it's that nervousness, and I would do that as a child too, and I would get in trouble for it. And I've done it at funerals before.
Ooh.
Yeah, bad place to laugh at, right? But well, and I think that it's important to note too that we want to embrace our emotions. So
Yes.
it's not using laughter as a way to deter what we're feeling, but it's using laughter as a way to handle those hard emotions or those hard situations.
Yes.
So one of the big things that I learned too in my laughter yoga class is like, if you're having a shitty day, you're having a hard day, you can change it with laughing. Like if you go out to your car and it's not starting, what would a laughter sound be? Like if you're trying to turn the key and you can't get your battery to go, right? What does it sound like? And then, because when we go into a situation like that, automatically we are so programmed to go into our fight or flight.
Yeah.
We're programmed to go into those worst case scenarios. We're programmed to go into screw my life. Like everything sucks. I can't handle today. I give up. But if you shift it with doing some laughter and like making it more of a lighter situation, then what happens is now your parasympathetic system is activated. You can go back into the rest and digest, and now you can think logically and you can problem solve and you can figure it out. Whereas when you're in those moments and you're so overwhelmed and so stressed out, you cannot see the solutions.
No question about it. I just want to say hello to David, who I see he says hello to us. So hello, David Carter. Did you see that he says hi to us?
Oh, yep.
Hey, yeah, hi, David.
He's on YouTube.
Hope you're having a funny time. Well, the other thing about the endorphins, well, the humor is that it raises endorphins. I want to talk about the endorphins because the endorphins control, well, our neurotransmitters control our emotions, but the endorphins are lifted with laughter. They're also lifted with, and they can probably also be depleted if we just keep going and not stop, because obviously it's taking energy to laugh and it's lifting our endorphins up, which is wonderful. What we want to do to sustain the endorphins is to eat protein and make sure we're getting in those amino acids, even though that doesn't seem funny. It's true. And one of the things I noticed when I was in early recovery, and so it's not just endorphins, it's serotonin. When we're low in serotonin, so again, the laughter boosts endorphins. It also boosts serotonin. So when we're low in serotonin, things are not funny. They're just nothing. It's just nothing really is funny. And I'm going to tell you about when I knew my brain was coming back in treatment, because I laughed at something for the first time when I was like 6 weeks sober. But I remember my brother-in-law. I mean, I was in treatment. My brother-in-law showed up and he was sitting out on the lawn at the treatment center. We had family night on Wednesday night. He goes, Patty, you're just not funny anymore. You used to be funny. And I was just like,
Rude.
And I was like, no, I actually really want to kill myself.
Yeah.
But I realized I wasn't. Nothing was funny. And but I didn't understand at that point in treatment about the amino acids. I didn't know that part of my journey until I got out of treatment and did Julia Ross's training on the mood cure. And of course, I wasn't seeing things funny. My serotonin was low. So as I was starting to heal my brain and sober longer and longer, I'm sitting in a meeting at treatment center, and this was the first laugh. And I've shared it a lot before, so I just wanted to share it on our show about it. So we're sitting at an AA meeting at the treatment center in another house, and there was a man that always comes to the treatment center, and he'd always like rock back on his chair. And I see him at meetings now. Great guy. He's actually a psychiatrist in recovery. And he's going back in his chair, but his chair happened to be over like 3 little steps. So as he's rocking back, the next rock he took back, he went downstairs.
Oh my gosh.
And
oh my gosh.
And I wasn't the only one that cracked up. Other people did. He was okay. If he was hurt, obviously
I would have laughed too.
But all of a sudden he just goes back over and he's down the stairs. And it was like, again, 3 or 4 stairs. And to this day, I'll call him Frank. It's not his real name. But I said, Frank, you know what? You were my first laughter. And I said, when you fell down those stairs, okay, your chair at that meeting. And he had no clue about it. He completely had forgotten about it. But I thanked him. I said, I realized, and it's not that someone falling is going to make you laugh again, but I realized what I did realize was my brain was getting better. I was eating protein. I was no longer drinking or smoking weed to deplete my neurotransmitters. So I was slowly healing my brain, which brings back in humor. And the world doesn't seem so gloom anymore. I was able to actually start looking at my trauma and other things as well to heal, right? I wanted to share that because it's important to laugh, and I think it's also very valuable to laugh, and it's also very valuable to cry.
Right. Yeah,
it is. Crying is also another endorphin support and serotonin support. And there was a songwriter that a lot of folks in my generation know about, Joni Mitchell, and she wrote a song. I forget what song it was, but there's a lyric in one of her songs that laughing and crying are the same release. And what she's talking about there is endorphins. You're clearing, whether you're crying or laughing, you are clearing and lifting up into a different energy and frequency.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, so you're doing that. You're also enhancing your immune system. You're helping fight off infections.
Oh, right.
Improving blood flow throughout all of your body and to your brain. You're reducing your stress hormones. You're doing, it's a powerful thing, and it's so easy. It's simple. It's right there. And Patty, like you, I remember when I was in some of my darkest times too and not laughing. Mm-hmm. I remember walking at work one day with my buddy Mark next to me, and he's jumping around and he's joking with me, and like he's like, come on Jess, like, where's my happy Jess at? Where are you? And I wasn't there. I was completely disassociated. I could not engage in the fun that he was having. And like, but I could before. But when you're in those dark times, it's very, very hard to see that and move through those emotions. And I want to honor that process too, of honoring those emotions when we are in those dark spaces. And we, so many of us reach for something to numb that pain, or to disengage, or to disassociate, to not feel those feelings. But it's also very important that we honor those emotions as they come up, and that we feel them, and that we sit with them, and we ask them for their wisdom, and we ask them for the guidance. And we acknowledge that they're there, because when we do that, when we say, hello, anger, hello, sadness, thank you for showing up. What do you have to teach me today? Or you hold your heart when you're crying, when you feel that deep amount of pain, you're honoring those emotions in this human experience, and you're able to move through it more quickly than if you numb it. Because every time you numb and you reach for a substance, or you reach for something, or you run and fill your schedule full of activities, furthering that healing. You're furthering it, and you're just pushing it deeper and deeper inside, where now you're going to experience some type of physical illness.
No question.
But laughter can help release those emotions. It can help pull them out. Breath work can help pull them out. Even just sitting with them and feeling them helps in our body. Did you just fart, Patty? That's what it sounded like.
I didn't. I pulled.
Did you
want to talk about the fart machine, though, because I was pulling my computer up, Jess,
and that's what it sounded like. It sounded like.
Okay, so that leads me into the fart machine, which. So I have a sweet brother-in-law, the one that also said to me, "You don't think anything's funny?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in treatment. I left my child. I'm living in Utah from New York. Da 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 da. Right? Well, he also doesn't think farts are funny, right? So he thinks, and a lot of us do. It's just this, like, he goes, "I don't understand." He's from New York. "I don't understand. What is with you guys? Farts are not funny. It's disgusting." And that makes it even more funny. We're like, okay. Frank, I'll do everybody Frank that I don't want to give a name to. So here's what's so funny. His grandson, my brother gave his grandson a fart machine for his 8-year-old birthday present last year. And it tortured him. It tortured my brother-in-law, Frank. So he was just like, "God, it's not that funny." So then his mama planted it in the room it must have been a little bit longer ago, because he was doing a lot of Zoom calls. So maybe it was toward the end of COVID. So she planted the fart machine in his office. And I guess there was a timer. And it go off. So he's on Zoom, and all of a sudden you hear, these fart sounds, and he's just like, Jesus. And he's trying to like put himself on mute or whatever he did, and he couldn't find it. Like, he had to get off the Zoom call. He thought it was me. Like, he thought it was me because I laugh about the fart stuff, right? I'm like, it wasn't me, man. Like, I didn't do it. Anyway, it was just a comical thing about just the sounds of it, and but no, I didn't fart, Jess. But I will say, excuse me if I do.
I'll laugh if you do.
Well, it's a natural release, and we don't want to hold things in that are natural, Jess.
Excuse me.
That's actually a very Ayurvedic principle. Is so just for our listeners, if you don't know Ayurveda is the science of nature and life, and it actually goes alongside yoga. So as we were talking about laughter yoga, and I remember one of my first Ayurvedic classes, and she talked about the 7 causes of diseases, and I was like, ooh, I was excited to learn about that. So 5 of them, according to this Ayurvedic practitioner, are misuse of our senses. So this is interesting, right? Our misuse of what we're watching, Like if we're watching a lot of violent stuff, or we're, having too much light when we need darkness, so all of our senses, misuse of our senses, we're hearing things that are disturbing to our ears, and it doesn't cause disease right away. It creates an imbalance in our energy flow,
A disruption. Yeah.
with Ayurveda, and then it disrupts that what we're tasting. And that's why, if you're eating something and you're gagging on it, and even if it's good for you, you probably don't want that. I had a guy years ago come to me and he goes, "Oh, I drank that green drink you told me about, and I choked it down." And I was like, if you choked it down, don't drink it. Like, your body's already saying, like, this is disgusting, So anyway, that's the five senses, right? What we're wearing too. If you're wearing shoes or clothes that are tight or uncomfortable or itchy, your body's reacting to that. So just have an awareness about it. Now, the other two, let's see if I can, um, um, let's see. Okay, misuse of time. That's interesting. Always feeling like there's not enough time. Does that sound familiar? Right? Oh my God, I got to get that done. I was talking to a friend earlier who I hadn't seen in a long time, and I FaceTimed her, and she couldn't really figure out how to FaceTime. So I looked at her ear. I said, "I'm still looking at your ear. I can't see your face." Because she had me at her ear, right? I was like, okay. But
Bring it out here.
she was walking around, and there's not enough time in the day. There's not enough time in the day to get done. I said, you need to rest, and she's actually having heart conditions going on. So for our listeners, like, we are not AI. We're not robots. We're not computers. We are human beings that need to rest. We cannot keep going without our body starting to break down. And that's part of the misuse of time, thinking there isn't. And the fact is, we're never going to get it all done. So let's enjoy what we have. But the seventh cause of disease is suppression of urges. So that brings me back to the fart.
Holding your bowel movements in too.
Or you have to pee and you hold it. I teach a class at a treatment center here, and I'm like, if you need to get up and go to the bathroom, just get up and go to the bathroom. You don't wait, like in second grade in the 50s.
Oh my gosh. Or like when I worked for the airlines and we had to wait for our time for our 15-minute break to go to the bathroom.
Oh my God, what?
Yeah, because it goes against you.
Bizarre.
Right?
That's like so antiquated. My gosh.
Yeah. Humorous.
So again, crying, laughing, sleeping, suppressing sleep. Hello, our lovely listeners out there. Please do not suppress your sleep. And if you have to sleep, like go to sleep earlier because your body's telling you to sleep, go to sleep. You're not missing out. And that leads us to the stimulants, right? So people are like, okay, well, I'll just have a coffee, or I'll have a cigarette, or I'll just get on some more internet, and because so we're coming back around to all these different neurotransmitters that are affected, right? So dopamine gets affected by every time we change an activity. That's why we are dopamine, we're kind of dopamine deficient and serotonin deficient in that sense. There's that great book called The Hacking of the American Mind. And that whole book by Dr. Ludwig or something like that. He talks about our dopamine driving, right? Change activity. Oh, I'm in it. Oh, I got to get my phone. Oh my gosh, what's on Facebook? Oh my God. Right? Our dopamine's going up. We keep getting these hits of dopamine. So we're really using out our dopamine. But here's the other caveat to that. And I know you know this. I'm talking to everybody else out there too, and reminding myself that when dopamine keeps going up, guess what goes down? Serotonin. So yeah, we may be getting shit done, and we're drawn to stimulants and keep going. And this is what I'm seeing so much in my practice now. I'm like, when people tell me, oh, I took a rest today. Oh, I'm going slow. I'm like, congratulations. You're subtracting things from your life so that you can live happier and longer. because serotonin's going down, and serotonin helps us sleep, helps us give us that happy mood that your friend was looking for with you, so.
Yeah. Well, and as the dopamine continues to deplete too, like, or all those hits are depleting it, so it's not getting replenished because it's hitting it too quickly for it to recycle and replenish.
No question.
So,
but you get a tiny bit of it, so you feel like, okay, I have a change of activity. Oh, this is exciting. And you're also getting an endorphin hit too, because the endorphins are all part of that love molecule. Oh, change and excitement, right? So you get a hit, but you need more to go, keep going. So then what do? We keep going. More hits, more hits, more hits. And we are exhausted.
Yep. So Leighton has a video for us. We're going to watch Madame Kataria.
Oh, really? That's so fun.
Hello friends. This morning I'm trying a different kind of laughter. It's not a very loud, because I'm afraid that somebody will wake up next to me. In the past I tried silent laughter, but today's situation is not all that bad. I can laugh with a little bit of sound. Instead of laughing very loud, I tried something very gentle, soft giggling. And I found that I can go on forever. So here it goes. How to do gentle laughter, soft laughter instead of very loud. I know that loud laughter has its own benefits, but this is not too bad.
I love his pauses. Oh, that was so great. Oops. There we go. That was so fun. I loved his pauses, because you think he'd be like, just done, and then all of a sudden he'd start again.
He bursts
And
out again.
it's so interesting. Like I'm trying to think about, like, what is he thinking about he's probably not. I don't know. Like,
He's
what would
just
you?
lost in the moment.
He's just lost in the moment. So it's like this. Um, yeah, I did this thing at a yoga retreat, and I was actually cooking at the yoga retreat, but I participated in some of the group stuff. And maybe you know about this, Jess, as a yoga teacher. So we did this thing where we laid down and we put our head on the person's belly, and then you kind of kept doing that. Is that part of laughter yoga?
Yeah.
Okay. And it was hysterical because then you're feeling people are laughing and you're feeling the belly that you're on laughing, right? Because it affects your belly when you laugh, you know.
And your head bounces, and it's such a fun experience.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Pretty good insights with laughter. And I was just thinking about, people who don't laugh, what that's like. And we talked about that ourselves, right? Where we were in our darker times and didn't laugh. But for those who actually maybe never have laughed, maybe grew up in a abusive, violent, neglectful situation. And yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult to think about children not laughing. But I think, as we know, and I mentioned when we first opened, that there are a lot of difficult things going on in the world, and there always have been. There's always been poverty. There's always been homelessness. I saw a man today outside the grocery store, homeless man. He was sitting in front. He was sitting on the curb on a sidewalk, and the watermelon he must have just bought broke. And he was clearly, also had mental illness going on, because, if you don't feed your brain, you will experience mental illness. You might experience depression, anxiety, and eventually that can move into that, because you go into some type of psychosis if the brain isn't fed. I mean, that's the reality of the importance of food, our dear friends.
Right.
And so I went inside and it was actually Whole Foods, which I don't go into very often. And I was going to buy him a watermelon. And actually, I did buy a watermelon, but I didn't know if he would be out there. And sure enough, he wasn't there. I was just going to give him another watermelon. Holding light and love for the people that are in those suffering moments, and passing along a watermelon, or, a few dollars if you can afford it. And the homelessness is so many places now. There was a young man, I went to this open mic, and what a light worker. So here in Salt Lake, there's a place called the Clubhouse, and every Tuesday night they have an open mic. So I went to hear Terry read his poetry. And when I walked in, there was a young man sitting on this chair, and he was playing this really unusual flute, right? It was like I forget what he called it, because I asked him afterwards. It was incredible music. And afterwards, he was expressing that he is homeless right now. He's experiencing homelessness. And so by him sharing that, the woman in front of him said, "I work in that field."
Oh, wow.
And other people reached out to him to give him support. But the thing that I noticed about him was he was laughing. Mm-hmm. Like, he had this lightness about him. And I was like, wow, what kind of resilience is that? Where, and actually he was missing his front tooth. I know I talked about it earlier, but his front tooth was missing as well too. And so, anyway, he was laughing, and I thought, wow, what an incredible. And there's a homeless person walking right by right now. Isn't that interesting how the universe works like that? Anyway, I wanted to share that because I know that there's a lot of things that aren't funny But the more we can hold light for people, the more we can and get people fed.
Yeah.
That's my mission here is like,
It's like interesting that you keep bringing up the tooth, right? Because so many people are afraid to show their smile. I have many friends who are missing teeth that are afraid to show their smile because they're embarrassed by it. But then when they do smile, so one of my friends said, I met this guy the other night at Ecstatic Dance, and he was missing his front tooth, Jess, and he was just smiling, and he was the happiest person ever. And it gave me permission. He said, I'm no longer embarrassed now to smile.
right. Of
And
course.
so, we have certain situations that we become embarrassed by that take us away from our ability to have that play in our life. And that's what it comes back to. Like, I love being with my grandkids because they bring me back into the present moment of just being. And, they go through this world. Like my little granddaughter, she's a Cancer, and Cancers are emotional beings. Oh my gosh.
I know. I'm married to one, so I know that.
Before she was born, my daughter had a card reading, and they told her, your baby is going to be like a tsunami. She's going to have all these crazy emotions. And she does. But it's so beautiful to watch her go through these emotions. If she's happy, she's laughing, she's joyful, she's making everybody else laugh with her, and her little laugh is so contagious. And if she's sad, she cries. She cries, and she says, I am sad, I'm upset, I got hurt, or whatever it is. Or if she's mad, oh my gosh, that is funny. Like, it's funny for me to watch her express it because she's trying to navigate through these crazy emotions, and we allow her to be able to express them, which as a child for me, I wasn't allowed to express any of those emotions. It was very scary to express anything. But yeah, I think that the laughter helped me as a child to be able to get through that scariness. So anyway, laughter has got a lot of beautiful purpose in our lives. And
no question. I can't imagine life without it, and I'm so happy that I look at my life and the hardships I've gone through, and I can see the humor in some of it now. It's just like, oh, okay. I got kicked out of treatment for not closing the cabinets and shit like that, and people are like, no, you didn't. That's not true. And I'm like, yes, it was. It was like a rule there. You got like restrictions, or what we would think of demerits, when you didn't follow through with something. And back then during it was not funny. Right. So I think that's the other thing too, is not taking ourselves so seriously and looking at some of the challenges. And there's some challenges that we're not going to laugh about, that were traumatic, that we just get to hopefully be okay and accept at some point, because we have to be able to work through trauma. And if any of our listeners are, experiencing that, trauma therapy is real and it's really helpful. But again, it's an expression of that we're working through that instead of suppressing it. Because as we hold on and we don't laugh and we don't cry and we don't fart if we need to in an inappropriate situation, those are just holding things in, and our body knows it. And that's all part of a lot of the trauma therapy now. It's about moving these things out with, the EMDR and the tapping and some of the somatic therapies. Because it's crazy that the body holds on, right? The Body Keeps Score, that book by, I always forget that author's name. He's from
Bessel van der Kolk. Yeah. And then there's another one that's called Hidden Feelings Buried Alive. That's a really
I have that. That's crazy. That was written a long time ago. I know. Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. I was like, whoa, Uh-oh.
Yeah, feeling, that's what it's called. Feelings buried alive never die. Yep.
Yeah, I better open that door. And so one of the ways to clear that is through mantras. It's also through talking to someone and dancing and moving and having an intention to move it. Um,
Right.
that's why I love movement because it's so powerful. Drumming, tapping. This is a good one. When you were holding your heart before, this is one that Christina showed me, who's actually a mental health addiction therapist. And this is part of the EMDR work too, right?
Yep.
You just
This one
tap.
too.
And this one, yep, you just tap.
Yeah. And so part of my yoga therapy training, I had a lot of trauma therapy training. So that
Mm.
is something that I'm an expert in. Not,
Hmm.
yeah. So I've got that training too to help people to be able to move with movement and to do some EMDR and processing of
Mm.
that. It's powerful. It's really powerful. I had a client one day. She came to me and she was going through a really traumatic situation in her life. And when she got to me, Patty, at the beginning of our session, she was shaking. Like every part of her body was shaking. She was in that trauma response.
Mm.
And we got up and we did movement. We did mindful walking and we did some movement. And by the end of the session, she was calm. She was normal. She was like, "Oh my gosh, Jess, I cannot believe how powerful this session was." Just simple mindful movement.
Right. And I love that. And I think this is part of looking at our wellness as wellness crusaders, our wellness toolbox. What do we need? Do we need movement? Do we need to eat? Do we need to cry? Do we need to take a bath? Like checking in on what we need. I love that. And yeah, I think it's fantastic about the yoga and the dance therapy. um, that's always been one of my things is the dancing.
Yep. You've taught dance for years.
Mhm. And there are dance therapists, for sure, but back when I wanted to study dance therapy before I got into nutrition, you were working at a you were working at a hospital, and I didn't want to be in a hospital setting. So there weren't really places for that. There are now. And they're integrating it, like they're using yoga therapy for trauma and dance therapy. And really, when I worked with children and taught dance with children, they were just like, "Arr," they would be able to like move and get things out, and then they'd be, oh, okay. So there's such power in release. And I want to share, I think I've shared this with you before, but maybe I haven't. My daughter, who is uh, uh, she's in her 30s now, but when she was in her 20s, she was dating a guy who was an alcoholic and very unstable, and she would call me crying a lot. And I was already sober, so I was just like, uh you know holding space for her to share. And she called me up, and what I want to share is the power of releasing, getting it out. So she called me up, hysterical, crying about this guy, and I just listened. I'm like doing my breath work, trying to hear her sobbing. A few words would come out here and there, sobbing. It went on for like 4 or 5 minutes. It felt like hours, right? And then there was a pause and nothing was coming out. And she switched and she said, "Hey mom, how do you make brown rice?" And I'm like, 2 cups, 2 cups of water, one one cup of rice, 2 cups of water. Okay, thanks mom, love you, thanks for listening.
Yeah, sometimes that's all it takes is you just
Oh,
need
it
to be
was just, and
heard.
I'm creating a story about like, and there was probably, but my point in sharing that, and I've shared that a lot over the years, is she felt it, she cried, she sobbed, she said some words about it, and then it was moved.
It's done. Yep.
So she moved out of that and now could make her rice.
How
So, but she
beautiful.
didn't hold it in, and my daughter's never held it in. And I think that, that was a hard one to take, because I grew up like, don't talk to your mother like that. Oh, don't express anything that's negative or angry or sad, right? So as we have these children that are laughing and that are crying and that are storming around, it's part of allowing that to be. And also, you know, if they're storming around, they can go into their room and do it too. If it's upsetting, you know, the group, I understand that part, but letting them express, and that's harder for adults, right? Because we're like, no, you're an adult. No, no, no. You should know better, or you're over that, or, you know, you're an adult. Adults don't do that. That's why giving adults permission to stomp in your yoga therapy and move and like to have this guttural clearing is so powerful, you know.
Yep. So I want to hear your favorite joke.
Oh my gosh. I don't do well with jokes. All right. Um, what has what this is the only one I remember. I actually, even though I think things are really funny, I don't have a lot of jokes, but because I forget them. But this is the one I always remember. What has two knees and swims?
What?
A toonie fish.
A toonie fish? A
Right.
toonie
A
fish.
toonie fish. It's a silly one, and I wish I could call up some other jokes.
Okay, I've got one. This is
Okay.
Charles made this up. So we
Okay.
used to sit with the kids and we used to just tell knock knock jokes all the time.
Okay. Oh, knock knock. Okay, that's a good one.
So knock knock,
Who's there?
grape.
Grape. Who?
My poo's brown. He said gray poo.
I love it. Well, good. I think your joke is probably a little bit funnier than mine. I don't
I
know.
like
But
the
I
toonie
don't.
fish. I thought that was cute. Okay, I have one more.
Okay.
This was told to me by my friend Chad, who lost his life when we were 16 years old because of drugs and guns. But it came from him, and it was I've just passed it on. So there's 3 ropes, and they're standing outside of a bar, and they want to go. 3 ropes. Yep, they're ropes.
Rope.
Yep, a rope.
A rope. Okay.
Okay, and they're standing outside of a bar, and they want to go in, and but there's a sign on the bar that says no ropes allowed. So the first rope is like, well, I'm going to go in, and throws a cowboy hat on and goes in, goes up to the bartender, and he's like, hey, bartender, give me a beer. And the bartender's like, hey, aren't you a rope? And he's like, no. And they're like, yeah, you are. I can see underneath the cowboy hat. You're a rope. So he calls the bouncer over. The bouncer takes the rope, throws him outside, kicks him out. So the second rope is like, the other 2 ropes that are standing there, they look at each other and they're like, darn. So the second rope throws on a jacket, goes in, walks up to the bartender, and he's like, hey, bartender, give me a beer. And the bartender's like, aren't you a rope? He's like, didn't you see our sign out there? Calls the bouncer over, takes the rope, throws him out. The last rope is standing there, and he's like, man, I'm not going to go out like that, but I really want that drink. So he undoes the end of him, frays himself, ties himself in a knot, walks up into the bar, walks to the bartender, says, hey, bartender, give me a beer. And the bartender says, hey, aren't you a rope? And he says, nope, I'm afraid not.
Okay. That's when I'm going to pass on. I'm afraid not. Nice. I think that is perfect to end our show on. And I think I might remember that. I don't know what it is in my brain that like I have people that can remember jokes so easily, but I'm like, oh. So thank you for sharing that one. That one is fantastic.
Yeah.
So okay, I think we can say goodnight for today, Jess. And I hope if anybody's listening or listening down the road enjoyed our connection today around laughter and around expression and making sure that we are feeling our feelings, and watch funny shows. You know what I mean? Like there's so much so much crap out there on the movies, that I think the more we can actually get over to humor. And I've been watching, I can't stop myself. I get a little caught in when there's something funny that I enjoy. And it's on Saturday Night Live, and it's called The Californians. Californians, and it's insane. It's with Bill Hatter and Frank, I forget the other guy's name, but they're hysterical. Kristen Wiig, and they all, are kind of like just jostling around the Californians, but it's really funny. And what's so funny about it is the way they speak and joke around, but it's their faces, they make funny faces. So whatever you can do to laugh a little bit more, whether it's watching a Saturday Night Live skit, to laughter yoga, wholesome comedy humor. Yes, wholesome comedy humor, Leighton says. Absolutely.
Or just start laughing. Just like totally just start laughing. You can do it, and then your family and friends are going to join in.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to wonder what's so funny.
Well, and I think that would be an experiment to do, like just start laughing like at a table with a bunch of people, especially if they're serious, and then people will just question. And I wanted to share this. I was talking to a colleague today, and he's hysterical. I mean, his family. He says they laugh a lot, and he said he was at this. Actually, it was at a bar. When he was drinking, he's now sober many years, but and this guy came up, and he wasn't part of their group, but these guys were all laughing, and the guy's like, "What are you laughing? What are you laughing at?" Like he just wanted to know, because he was just so like caught up in the fact that these guys were having laughter and joking, and this guy wasn't involved in it, and it was one of those things where, like, they didn't know what to say. They just said, "We're just talking funny stuff, sit down, if you want to join us." And I think he ended up sitting down, but he didn't get it. And it's okay if you don't get it. And it's okay if people don't find things funny now. But we can work toward that a little bit too. You know what I mean? We can work toward watching more funny things and just laughing, like you said, like watching that guy laugh, we started laughing, right? So it's helping us shift our frequency and raise those yummy endorphins, neurotransmitters, and the serotonin.
Yep. One of my favorite things to do is to watch some of the reels or the YouTube videos of people like totally biffing it. I don't know why there's humor in like how people fall, but there's.
I know there is some of that you can see.
I pray that they're okay, but yeah, it is funny. It is pretty funny.
Yeah, there's no question about that, for sure. I've had some ski falls that I'm sure a lot of people laughed at. So I wasn't laughing, but they were. So it's all right. It's all good. Well, okay. Well, I'm going to sign off. Thank you for your laughter and your humor and your lightness, and for sharing it. And thank you, Leighton, for being our back end tech person. And
yeah, thank you, everyone. Just want to remind you that we're here to empower lives, inspire wellness, and offer solutions.
Right.
Please join our crusade.
Please, please, please. Blessings to all of you. Happy laughing.
Much love.